Thanks, mate. I'll give you 10 or 8 for that rapturous welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Anybody at my last Power Hour speak? Yeah. Few other than you lot that I employ? No? Good, I can regurgitate some gags. Excellent news. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about content and how you can really get your content moving for 2023. A little bit different to what Andy's talked about there. My talk is going to be focused around the fact that you don't really have to spend any money to get this to work properly for you. So a few tips and takeaways for you guys, hopefully, to look at how you can improve your content for 2023 from a digital point of view. Back, not forward. Okay, cool. So this guy knows a thing or two, right? Mr. Gates. He said in 1996 that he thought content was the only way, or one of the real ways where money could be made on the internet. And guess what? He was pretty much right. The sort of commercialization of a lot of the content channels that we see nowadays, social media being one of them, but you've got your advertising on a lot of different platforms. What probably a lot of you don't know is that when you're on Amazon nowadays and you're shopping, some of the little banners that you see at the top of your shopping results aren't necessarily always just products. They're adverts. It's costing you money. It's costing them money for you to click on those to take it to an actual advertiser that sells products on Amazon. So a lot of the time when you're clicking your listings on Amazon, it isn't a listing that's generated by Amazon's engine. It's an advert that somebody's put in there. So it's quite sneaky. But again, another way that they're kind of commercializing their content. So yeah, Bill knows a thing or two. But then we also need to listen to Google. And Google talk about content using the EAT algorithm, which I'm sure some of you have heard of, or not? Yeah. A few nods. SEOs, please don't answer these questions. So EAT stands for expertise, authority, and trust. So what basically Google want from your content is for you to tick these boxes. You need to be an expert, so you need to know what you're on about. You need to be an authority. You've talked about it quite a few times. And you need to be trustworthy. Basically, you need to make sure your content's not shit. It's pretty much what they're saying there. But that's really important. So it's about the depth of the content you go into. It's about the research you do when you're producing that content. It's about the fact that you talk about this kind of thing a lot of the time. So it sort of generates that relevance and that kind of authority and trust at the same time. So yeah, they know a thing or two about it. And all we're doing really here is thinking about how can we produce content that ticks boxes for lots of different areas. Social media network growth over the next 5 years, these are the platforms that the numbers are going to be predicted to be the number of accounts, users that will be on these platforms. So as you can see from here, there's been quite a lot of growth in different areas. TikTok's the one that's kind of jumped onto the platform. I'm a bit kind of in the middle about TikTok, if I'm honest. It works for some brands, it doesn't work for others, it depends on what you're doing. If you're selling walk-in baths or stair lifts, probably not a great idea to go on TikTok unless you want to kind of fly your granny up the stairs and knock her off at the top. But a platform for younger brands, yeah, definitely something that people should be considering. But the point here is that whatever content you've got to produce it in a way that's relevant to that network or that audience that sits on that network. It's no good producing a Facebook advert and then expecting it to work on Instagram the same way. It's just not going to work. So you've got to think about the format and the platform that you're on. So you need to plan this content now if you haven't already. So if you haven't got a plan for 2023, or at least some rough sort of idea of what you're going to do, then crack on with it as quick as you can. Who's in the middle of Black Friday, Christmas prep at the moment, from an industry point of view? By show of hands. Just Andy on his own. Okay, cool. So basically, if you're not trying to sell stuff at Christmas and Black Friday, you should be doing this now because it should be potentially one of your quietest times of year. We work with a holiday home client and it's quite quiet for them at the moment because nobody wants to go and buy a holiday home in November when it's snowing and freezing and you've got to scrape the ice off your car in the morning. So this is the time of year where they will plan this content really well. Well, that's the idea anyway. So, proper planning and preparation prevents piss poor performance. Very easy for me to say after 2 pints of Guinness, did quite well actually. But you've got to really plan this properly. So plan it, think about it, make sure you understand and respect the format that you're producing this content in. That could be video, it could be the imagery, it could be written content, it could be illustrations, whatever it is. But think about what you're going to produce, schedule when it's going to be produced. So is this the best time of year to do it for Easter? Do we want to do it in summer next year? Think about when you want that content out there and get ahead of the trends. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this further on today. So this is all well and good, but how do you know what to produce? Where do you know where to start? Well, you already have an idea in your business what content your audience wants, or at least an inkling, but there are some pretty easy tips I can give you to give you maybe a bit more of a solid feel for where you need to go. So, first one is use your own data. So you have a lot of data at your fingertips as people that own websites and content that you don't probably necessarily use in the way that you could. So, first one is to look at your own popular content. So use Google Analytics, other stats packages are available that are not very good. Find your top visited content. Look at the content that people are looking at on a regular basis and say, okay, review it, look at it, get 4 or 5 people in your business to look at it. What could I do to make that better? Because there isn't necessarily just because it's getting a lot of traffic and it's doing really well, doesn't necessarily mean it's in the best format it could be. So, is the data in there that's from 2019? Yeah, okay, I could probably update that. Is there a trend in there that refers to 2018? Yeah, I could probably update that as well. So have a look at what you can do. How can you improve it? How can you change it? How can you tweak it? How can you enhance it? Can you use imagery? Can you use video to make it a little bit more jumping off the page towards you? And do that across everything that you think is worth improving. Now, there will be some content that's in those top pages viewed, which you can't do a lot with, or you don't want to do a lot with because it ruins the brand experience. So be selective, but you'd be surprised when you actually look at the content that you produced 2 years ago for a certain web page, how much of it you could update and change, or add to, or look at other pieces of content that you've put out on your social media channel that flew in July last year, and it had loads of information in there that would enhance that page even more. So there's your first tip. Second one is, what are your customers asking about? How are you going to find this out? Well, you're going to find it out in a number of different ways. Social media, they ask you questions all the time, really irritating questions quite a lot of the time, if you're a retailer specifically. The other thing that you can do if you're not necessarily in that B2C space, but in more of a B2B space, is ask your reception staff, ask your customer service teams. People are on the phones in liaison with your customer base all the time. They will get asked the same questions probably 20, 30, 40 times a week. If they're asking that question, then you need to provide that answer. You can provide that digitally. It makes it quicker for them. I worked with Sky on their broadband and telecoms campaigns probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and one of their objectives was, how can I get content on my website that stops me needing to employ 60 call centre staff to answer these questions? And we just listened to what answers they got and what questions they got, and produced content on it and put it online. So before that phone call even got made, the Sky website had that content. What happens if when's my broadband installation date? What happens if my Sky handset says this? What happens if my router's got this on it? What happens if my web page says this when I'm trying to access my router admin? Things like that. Things that you wouldn't think to necessarily that people will be asking. Get that content on the site, because it stops that phone call being made, and it stops Sky paying somebody £3 an hour answering the phone. I don't know what they pay nowadays, but it probably was about 7 years ago. So make sure you've got content that answers the questions. Andy alluded to this one earlier. Reddit is a really underused resource for a lot of businesses. You can go onto Reddit and type in any kind of topic area you want, and it will come up with content or questions that have been asked about content within the last year, 2 years, whatever, and it will give you some probably little tidbits of information. So this one, for example, is somebody coming and going, here's a Walmart ad I've got for a gaming PC. Should I buy this one or should I buy a different one? What should I be looking out for? And people just came, there's 370 odd comments on this, I think there was. People coming on and saying, oh, think about this, think about that, think about the other. If you're a brand that's selling this equipment, you could be going, okay, well actually there's a guide content there. Answer all those questions with content. What graphics card should I get? I'm not a gamer, I don't know what would they put in these things, but that kind of thing. So if you haven't got the content, create it, but use these signals to help guide it. Don't just kind of aimlessly go, I think we need this because I run this business. What you want content-wise doesn't really matter. It's what your customers want. So don't listen to your own heads, listen to what people that are engaging with your brand are telling you. So the second one is a bit of housekeeping. So again, using everybody's favourite statistical analytical program, Google Analytics, find your least visit pages over the year, okay? Now there's a bit of a rule of thumb with this, but I'm kind of going out on a limb with this one. If they've had less than 0.5% of all visits in a year, ditch them. What's the point in having content on your website that nobody actually reads or does anything with? Waste of time. Complete waste of time. For a number of reasons. One, you're making it harder for Google because you're making them crawl content that nobody reads. So they don't care about it. Users don't care about it, so why should Google? The other thing is, it just adds another page to your website that you've got to maintain, look after, update, you know, hopefully drive somebody to in 3 years' time when still nobody's looking at it. There's no point. So look at it, look at the content that's on there. Is there actually anything on there that's relevant to other sections of my website that I could take it from and put it in, potentially? Is it so out of date that I don't need it anymore? Is it like a regulation thing that's been passed, a new law's been passed or whatever? Can we get rid of it? And if it isn't relevant, ditch it and redirect it into the top section of that. So if it's a news article that no one's read for 3 years, redirect it into the main news section. Don't just delete it because Google hates stuff like that. You give it a dead end and then they start crying and they can't find the rest of your website. So definitely don't do that. Remember the importance of the EAT algorithm that we talked about earlier on. You know, if that content isn't being read by anyone, how does it show you're an expert? How does it show you're an authority? And how does it show you can be trusted if you've got content that no one's looking at? Don't forget, they see this data every single day. So if your content isn't being seen by anyone, they're looking at it going, well, it can't be very good if no one's reading it. That's kind of how it works. News websites are a really good idea for this. So if you look at the BBC or Independent or any of the big press websites, news articles, unless they're really popular from about 2 years ago, won't exist anymore. They just get rid of them because it just adds content that you don't need to have there. If it's got lots of people still viewing it, like a sporting event that's happened that was really, really popular, or something happened that they want to document, they'll keep it. But the other stuff, you know, the match report for Plymouth versus Exeter 6 years ago, nobody wants to read. Not even Plymouth fans want to read that. So think about what content you could ditch, because this will help you rationalise what you need to work on moving forward. Make a content calendar. How many people actually do this? Well, there's a few people that do, that's good. There's a few people going, I really want to, but I can't be bothered. Dead important. There's loads of tools that are out there for you to do, and they're free. You search content calendar app or anything, Google, you'll find so many different apps that do it for you. You can tag them, you can categorize them into what you want. But look at things for you in terms of your industry. What are key dates? You know, Black Friday, obviously for this crowd, okay, we know that. But anything else that's a key date in the year, put it in there. You might have an event or a show that's going to come up that's a really big thing for your business. Get it in there so you understand you've got to produce content before it, during it, and after it. What are the other key dates internally? Are you opening a new office? Are you opening a new department? Is there a new product that you're launching? Is there a new service that you're bringing online? Are you discontinuing, servicing a certain product or piece of software or whatever it might be? Those are things that are important for you to produce content in the run up to and after. So make sure you've got that in your plan. And the other thing that's really good to think about are awareness days. Yesterday was International Stout Day. Yeah, okay. Probably not mean a lot to, but the Guinness sales I think have gone up behind the bar today. It's good, not just mine. But there are awareness days that happen all the time, and you'd be surprised at how many are relevant to your business. You'd be really will be surprised. Campaigns that I've done in the past: International Pirate Day. Very good. Yeah.
19th September.
It is. Long John Silver at the back. But there's probably loads. Honestly, there's a site called awarenessdays.co.uk, I think it is, or .com. Just search it in Google, you'll find it easy. And there are other events planned that you capitalise on. So just touching on something that Andy mentioned earlier, the World Cup, okay? Some football fans in here, some not. But usually what happens at Summer World Cup is you see all the electrical giants, Currys, AO, etc., smashing adverts out left, right, centre. Come and get a TV, and if Harry Kane scores a penalty, you might get 50 quid off. Okay, great. They're not doing that this year. Why are they not doing that? Because it runs into Black Friday. They've looked at it and gone, Black Friday is more important and will give us more sales than the World Cup will. And they've backed that horse. That's fine. That's cool. But they've planned that. That I would hope they've planned it. Anyway, I wouldn't have thought that AO would go with 3 days to go on Black Friday. Oh, we might put an advert Harry Kane scoring a penalty. You'd be pretty bored if that was. So think about it, get these calendars up and running. You don't have to use the apps, you can use Google Sheets, Excel, whatever it is you want to do, but put something in there. Even if you've only got 10 things in there, it'll still focus your minds a little bit. But make sure it makes sense. Now this next slide, I mean, it's not, I didn't originate it, it was on my content, but this is potentially a treason-based piece of content. The British Kebab Awards tweeted about the Queen passing away. I don't think she's probably ever had a kebab, to be honest. Why do they have anything to say about that? So again, it's like, you know, that's an event that's happened, that's a brand that's gone, oh, there's content, we could put something out about that. There's a much worse example, which a lot of people sat around there know about, which is, we're pre-watershed, so I can't mention it. Come and grab me later if you actually want to know what the answer to that question is. But why are they talking about that? What's that got to do with them? Absolutely nothing. The British Kebab Award, people that follow the British Kebab Award on Twitter really need them to say that the Queen's just passed away. I don't think so. So make sure you're not just piggybacking off anything, apart from National Pirate Day, which is a really good one. The other thing is to be on trend. Now, there's a really cool free tool on the internet called Google Trends. Anyone use it? Yeah. Religiously. Good man. So type in any topic, filter it by country, filter it by day. It will tell you the sort of things that people are searching for. What this is really useful for is, and we found this out for a couple of clients recently, is what you think people search for, but what they actually search for. So you might term something, I don't know, commercial marketing, for example, but actually what people search for is something completely different. So your terminology of something is not what your audience's terminology is. So it's important you're engaging with that audience content rather than your own sort of naming conventions for things. And the best recent example I can give you for where Google Trends shows you the difference in peaks and troughs of different people looking for things. Anyone see the Liz Truss versus lettuce video that the Daily Star did? Yeah. Look what happened to lettuce searches. Woo! How many people search for lettuce in October normally? Probably nobody. But the point being is this shows you what's on trend. So if you're checking this on a regular basis for your brand's content, for your brand, for your competitors' stuff as well, that's useful because you might see that all of a sudden a competitor's got a load of search volume for their brand. How have they done that? Oh, it's because they did something really dodgy like tweeting about the Queen not having a kebab before she died or something. You know, you'll find this out using this tool. It's really good. It updates itself every week, so it's really, really useful information. It gives you this random metric, which is like 100. It doesn't tell you what 100 is. Just 100, yeah. So the higher the bar, the more popular it is. You get that. The interesting thing about this is that pretty much nobody searched for Liz Truss versus lettuce, other than a little blip there. But that's the point. That's the power of the brand. So they're harnessing the content. They've put it out there. They've pushed it out via social channels. People have been engaging with that content. Still a live video now. The lettuce is a little bit brown now, to be honest. But the point being there is that they didn't necessarily need people to search for it because they were pushing that content out via a different medium, and that's the point of content. Produce it for the channel. People searching for lettuce. Big times in winter. And then the last point I'm going to talk about is future-proofing your content. So how do you make sure that you can think about what's going ahead? Well, this is quite simple. So you know if you're going to launch a new product or a service, or you're going to open a new office, or you're going to do something in the future in 2023 that's going to be a big deal. Yeah, you know that's going to happen. So produce that content now. Get it on the website, get it on your website, get people to be able to see signals for it, even if it's something that you don't want the market to see. So you might be launching a new product and you might not want your competitors to know you're doing it, or you might not want to let them know the price point. But a good idea will be to get a page up there to talk about it and then put a little newsletter box on there that says subscribe if you want more information about this when it's released. And you create your own marketing list to hit people with further down the line. And then you update the page when you're ready to launch. So Google knows that that website address exists. People have bookmarked it know it exists. Your email newsletter list know it exists. You've already gained an engaged audience with that. And an example that I'll draw on from a previous life in another agency is when I beat Apple to rankings for iPhone insurance. So Insurance to Go were one of my old clients from a previous agency, and we knew when Apple were launching a product. We knew, they told us. iPhone 10 launch date, 24th of whatever it was. Okay, great. Well, what I'll do, I provide mobile phone insurance for this model. I will produce a page talking about how good the iPhone 10 is within 2 days of them telling what all these great features were. I will show how much it's going to cost to insure that product. I will show the benefits you get from my brand, my client's brand, should I say, for insuring with us, and I'll get it ranking. And it went, within about a week and a half, it went to top 5 on Google. No one bought the insurance until 2 days before the phone was launched, until everybody was stood outside the Apple shop in the tents and the coats, shivering, waiting for it. Anyone do that? No one's going to admit it. Definitely someone who needed it. So we didn't sell any products. The objective was not to sell a product, it was to get it in the mind's eye of people when they were ready to go. So the minute that the iPhone 10 was launched, our client was number 1 for iPhone 10 insurance, 3 months before the phone was launched. And it's still there today. It's still above Apple now. And that's because it was the expert authority and trust on the subject matter at that point in time. We got ahead of the curve. It wasn't information that other insurance companies didn't know about, but they were just too slow to do it. Just too slow. So a great example of if you get ahead of the curve, you can really stay ahead of the curve as well. I mean, I don't know how many people are searching for iPhone 10 insurance now. Probably people that are buying it from like Music Magpie and Mazuma Mobile and things like that. Some dodgy bloke on eBay. But the point stands, it's still authoritative enough to rank as it stands today. So, bit of a recap. These are all things that you can do for free. So use your own data, use your analytics data, use your team's data, use the staff that work for you information, things that people are asking questions about, to help guide and understand what content you should be producing. Do some housekeeping, bit of a spring clean, get rid of the clutter, work out how you're best to deal with that, rework it elsewhere, ditch it completely, have a plan. Make a content calendar or get one free off the internet and help get it populated by the awareness days, plugins and things that you can get. Make sure you get that up and ready to go. Don't do what that client told us to do last year, which was got a Black Friday ad we need live in 2 days, please. 2 days before Black Friday. It didn't help. That's not good. Don't have piss poor performance by not preparing properly. Be on trends, use Google Trends, look at it, use it. There are actually downloads you can get from it as well, so you can schedule it to send you stuff when you want if you haven't got the time to necessarily go on every week. But it is useful and it is helpful, and it should be something you monitor, especially for your competitors as well as your own brand. And then future-proof yourselves. Anything that's coming up that you know you can produce some content for, then absolutely do it. Get it up there, get Google's eyes on it as quick as you can, and it will help you in the long run. Hope you've enjoyed that. Hope there's been some good takeaways from it. And if you want to know the worst version of the Queen tweet, come find me later. All right, thank you.